My name is Jarrett. I'm one of the lead pastors here at Soul City Church, and I'm so glad that you're here. For those of you who are here in person, take a big breath. You're here through your mask. You are here. Isn't it good to be here? It's good to be here. For those of you who are worshiping with us online, give us a little, in the comment section, let us know where you're joining us from. I've said this the last couple weeks. If you are in Chicagoland and you're watching online, you're doing it wrong. You need to be here. Tell them, everyone, say, you need to be here. You need to be here. Our team has gone above and beyond to make this a safe space for you to experience and encounter God. And there's just, I don't know, we say this like, it just hits different when you're here in the room, right? This is different. And so we want you to join us. If you're in Chicagoland and feel safe doing so, we want you to be with us. We're going to be looking at what it means to be for others as we continue in our Be Loved series. It's kind of an initiative for our church. How do we live this love of God out in our everyday lives in this world that so desperately needs it? And I saw a glimpse of it. I saw a picture of it this last week. Maybe you saw it too. There's a picture that made its way around social. Did anyone see this picture or happen to hear the story behind this picture? This is actually two high school football players at a Friday night game. And it's actually the guy that's standing up is Mario Heffer, and he was on opposing team from Carter Steinledge. That's the guy that's down on the ground. And he could tell when Carter went down, something obviously was wrong. But he knew that he had not been feeling great that game as well. And he thought, I bet you his legs cramped. So rather than staying on the sidelines waiting for someone else to come and help Carter, Mario ran from his team sidelines out to the field and immediately knew what to do, began to stretch out the opposing player's leg. And he went on to say, they interviewed him, and he said, I saw him go down. I didn't see anyone else actually go over there to help him out. And I know how this feels, and I wanted to help him get through this leg cramp until someone else came over. Two kids that are supposed to be competing against each other, and one says, no, I am for you. Isn't that an awesome picture to see? To see high schoolers showing us how to do it, right? See students actually showing us how to do it. It's just so good for us when we see someone who, even like in that case, who's supposed to be against someone else, say, no, I'm for you. Like, we're playing this game, but in life, I am for you. We love to see it, don't we? We love stories like that. We're inspired by stories like that. People who are actually there for others. People who go out of their way just to make sure that someone else is okay. I mean, you love to see it, right? It's like the Sox fan who stops to help the Cubs fan with the flat tire and some of the other issues they may be dealing with this season, right? You love to see it. You love to see it when a North Sider gets up and gives their seat on the L to a South Sider. That's our city at work. We love to see it. You love to see when a Packers fan has to comfort and console a Bears fan because they're going through some things this season. We love to see it, right? We love to see when people are for each other, go out of their way like that. It's beautiful to see. I saw it not long ago. It was about a year and a half ago or so. It was pre-pandemic, so whatever that is, 10 years. I can't even tell anymore. I was going to pick someone up from Midway, which I think deserves a medal in and of itself, or at least another jewel in my crown in heaven. I was going to pick a person up at Midway, and I had just got there way early. Like, there wasn't any traffic, shocker, so I was like, I have time to grab a Starbucks. So I went to that Starbucks on Cicero, the one right before. It used to only be one. Now there's two. So I was like, all right, I'll just go to the Starbucks and grab a coffee for me. But also I'll get one for them as well because I had some time. And so I pull up to the drive-thru and I place my order and I pull up to the window. Craziest thing happens. The barista said to me, she said, hey, I just want to let you know your whole order has been paid for. I was like, wow. I'm like, kind of a big deal. I didn't think I was that big of a deal. Like, what's going on around? And I said, well, how did that happen? There must be some mistake. And she goes, no. The person in front of you completely told me to pay for everything you ordered. I was so blown away by that kindness. Isn't that incredible? And so I said, well, how did that happen? Why did they decide to do that? She said, well, here's the thing. Tell me the story in the drive-thru. She said, here's the thing. Someone several cars ago, like 15 minutes ago, started this. And every person after them has continued it. Isn't that a cool picture? And you want to know what my first thought was when I heard that? Do I have to continue this now? Like, do I have to keep this train going? Because honestly, thank you, but I don't know what kind of coffee monster is in the car behind me. I don't know if they're here ordering for their whole office or if they plan on getting some Yeti tumbler at Starbucks. And so I found myself looking in my mirror going, thank you, and sizing up like the person in the car. How many people did they have with them. It's a real moral sort of dilemma for me. So just so you know, I'm not a monster. I paid for theirs as well. I gave my card and said, whatever they order, it's on me. And it's just and I felt great about doing it. And that's a small, simple thing. But have you ever had someone do something like that for you? Especially someone that you know that they just step in and you just know that they're for you. Maybe it's a big way or a small way for you. Maybe they sent you, have you ever had someone send you just an encouraging text out of the blue? They just say, hey, I'm thinking about you, and I want to let you know, maybe I'm praying for you. How good that feels, like, oh my gosh, thank you for, and usually lots of times for me, it's, you have no idea how much I need this right now, right? You ever have someone do that for you? Or maybe someone invited you out to breakfast, like, hey, let's just actually get together. I want to get together with you. And then not only do they invite you to breakfast, they pay for the whole meal. That's incredible, right? Or maybe someone actually makes you a meal and takes it to your house. Maybe that happened with you this last season. Someone made you a meal or got your groceries when maybe you were sick or struggling, or maybe you just had a new baby, right? And someone did that for you. They just said, hey, I'm for you. Again, big and small ways. My hunch is that you've experienced that. Maybe someone's helped you pack or move. Those are the real ones. You need to keep those people close in your life. Because my hunch is at some point, someone has done something for you to show you that they're for you. And the question I want us to wrestle with for a little bit today, if we can, is what do you do when you get that someone is for you? What's your response? What do you do when you get, oh my gosh, a lot of things going on in my life, a lot of things going on in the world, but this person is for me. What do you do when you get that someone is for you? Can we be honest, since we're in church, and those of you who are online, you can throw a little hand emoji. Can we be honest? When someone goes out of their way and does something nice for you, maybe really nice for you, has anyone here ever felt guilty? Raise your hand if you ever felt guilty before. Yeah, you're the honest ones in church today. I have oh, you didn't need to do that. And you almost feel bad that they're trying to do something good for you, right? So maybe you feel a little guilty. Or maybe you feel grateful. Maybe when you get that someone is for you, maybe you do nothing. You just go, oh, cool, thanks. Or maybe you want to do the same for them, or maybe for others. Let me say it this way. Think of the question this way. What do you do when you get that God is for you? Because that's what's really going on, whether that person realizes it or not. What do you do when you get that God is for you? And sometimes you get that glimpse of it through what someone else does, how they show up for you, how they extend themselves for you. What do you do when you get that God is actually for you? That's what's actually at the heart of this whole Be Love movement thing that we're doing here, how we want to extend the love of Jesus to anyone and everyone that we can. It's at the heart of a life with Jesus. It's his clear and consistent invitation that he gives us to each and every one of us to see that there is a God who loves you, who is for you, and because of that, you get to be for others. And I want us to dive into what that would really mean for you and for me to get that this week in our lives. And so here's what I want you to do. I want you to grab a Bible and turn to Luke chapter 10. So if you got a Bible with you, got it on your phone, awesome. If you're here in the building, there should be a Bible. There probably is a Bible under your seat. If you want to grab it, you can turn to page 843 in the Soul City Bible. Those of you worshiping with us online, someone type in the comments so everyone knows we're going to Luke chapter 10, and you can open up a separate tab so that people can kind of, keep up as we're reading along together. You can keep both those open. Let me give you some quick context to Luke chapter 10. Jesus is in full swing of his public ministry. There are crowds everywhere. He's gotten to that point where there's crowds everywhere he goes. And in every one of these crowds, everywhere he goes, there are always religious leaders who are kind of in and among the crowd because they don't know what to do with this Jesus. They do not like what he's about, and they certainly do not like who he is for. He's inviting all the wrong people to the party. And so in Luke 10, we get to see Jesus have a conversation with one of these religious leaders. And if you've ever read any of these stories where Jesus talks to the religious leaders, it tends not to go well for the religious leaders. And this story is no exception to that. Luke chapter 10, we'll jump down to verse 25, put it on the screen for you as well. 11 o'clock. I'm going to, at different points, we do this almost every week. I'm going to pause. When I pause on the word, what do you do? When I pause on the word, you what? You say it. Yes, a little more enthusiasm. You say it back, right? So if I pause, that means you shout the word back. You type it in all caps for those of you who are worshiping online. Okay, does that make sense? You got it? So when I pause, you speak up. You got it? All right, okay, that's all I needed. Thank you. All right, so here we go. On one occasion, an expert in the law, that's another way of saying a religious leader, one of the religious leaders, an expert in the law stood up to what? That's really important. That sets the whole context for this conversation. He stood up to test Jesus. And so he asked him, "Teacher," he asked, "what must I do to inherit eternal life?" I keep hearing you talking about this life with God. What must I do to inherit this life? So already we can tell from those first couple words, this is not a sincere dialogue. He's not showing up with his heartfelt question that now he gets the chance to talk to Jesus and he's going to bring it. No, what's he trying to do? He's trying to back Jesus into a theological corner so they can put Jesus in his place by putting him in a corner. And if you know anything about Jesus, nobody puts baby in a corner. And so he is not going to fall into this trap. And here's a fun fact that probably only John Jorgensen cares about. Do you know that there were lots of questions asked about Jesus? Do you know how many questions were actually unique, specific questions asked to Jesus throughout all 4 gospel accounts? I won't expect you to know. There's 183 times that 183 questions that Jesus is specifically asked all throughout the 4 gospel accounts. Now you get to guess. Anyone want to take a guess of those 183 questions? How many Jesus directly answered? 3. That's it. 183 questions, and he only answered 3 times. That is 1.64% of a response rate. Now, for those of you students who are up in the balcony, this only works if you're Jesus, okay? You don't get to tell your teacher on your next test that you're doing the Jesus thing by not answering any of the questions. This is not a what would Jesus do scenario, okay? This is what Jesus does, though, in this moment. He answers this guy's question with not an answer, but a question. And this is what he says in verse 26. He says, "What is written in the law?" So he comes to this expert in the law, this religious leader, says, "Hey, look, you know this thing inside and out, upside down. What's written in the law? How do you read it?" And that word read is another way of saying interpret it. How do you live it out? How do you practice it? That's what is implied in that word read. What's your sort of take on what is written in the law? Now, we don't have time to go into it because they go kind of into a dialogue where this religious leader says something that my hunches don't have the proof to back it up. My hunch is he heard a previous religious leader have a conversation with Jesus about, and he basically says, well, here's what it all comes down to. Love God and love your neighbor as yourself. That's his answer to Jesus. And so in verse 29, we get to look and pay attention to what comes after his answer of saying, love God and love your neighbor. But this is what he says, the religious leader in verse 29. He says this, but he wanted to, what's the word? Type it out or shout it out. He wanted to, he wanted to justify himself. So he asked Jesus, okay, so if it's love God and love my neighbor, Jesus, who's my neighbor? Like, who does this apply to, really? He wanted to justify. He wanted to make a case, or in this case, an exception for himself. Sets the whole tone for what Jesus is about to do next. Now, that word justify comes from a Hebrew word that is, maybe you've heard it, maybe not. It's yabut. So I want everyone out loud and type it in the comments to say yabut. Yeah, but you're actually not saying it right. Let's try it again. Well, this is how you properly pronounce it. Yeah, but there's no yeah, but in the Bible. I just made that up to get to this point in the message. There's no yeah, but. I made that whole part up. But this part is real. All of us like to justify ourselves with the, yeah, but, yeah, I know I'm supposed to do that, Jesus, but, come on, you can't really expect me to do that. Yeah, I know I'm supposed to love conservatives, but, come on, Jesus, wait for it, just wait for it. Yeah, I know I'm supposed to love liberals, but come on, Jesus, but, we do it all the time. Yeah, I know I'm supposed to love my family, but, Jesus, have you met them? I know you made them, but a lot's happened since then. Yeah, but am I really, really supposed to love and care and attend to my brothers and sisters who are experiencing homelessness? Yeah, but what can I do about the violence in this city? Yeah, but my life is so full. My schedule is so busy. We do it all the time. We're doing nothing different. We're just justifying ourselves. That's all we're trying to do. And that's all he's trying to do. He's just trying to justify himself. So often, when God prompts me or when God prompts you, he prompts us to love someone like he does. So often, more than we care to admit, our response is, yeah, but who really is my neighbor? Do I really have to do what you say? Do I really have to love them like you do? So rather than breaking his streak of unanswered questions, what Jesus does next is he decides to tell a story. And it may be a story that you've heard before, but as we move through it, I want you to try and imagine yourself as one of the main characters. And this is so important in all of the stories that he tells, is to find yourself in the story. So as we move through it, can you look for yourself as you are today? Not like the best version of yourself, as you actually are today. Find yourself in the story because this is what Jesus says. He moves into a story. Verse 30, let's keep moving through the passage. He says this, there was a man who was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho. And when he was on this road, he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him of his clothes, they beat him, and then they went away, leaving him half dead. So Jesus already starts out with a bit of gritty intensity to his story, but he's also using some familiarity. To those listeners who were there hearing this story, they knew exactly what road Jesus was talking about in this story. It's actually the Jericho road. I've actually had the privilege to go and to see this road that goes from Jerusalem to Jericho. It's a very famous and very familiar road to them. Just about every one of his listeners had probably had to travel it at one point or another. It's a very, very narrow road. As you can see, brought a picture of it. At times, it's barely even like the width of one car. It's like very narrow at times. So it's not like Lakeshore Drive. It's more like the Lakeshore running path, right? That's what it's more like, except with less rollerbladers. And so it's real narrow, and there's lots of winding curves, and there's caves on the side, and then there's drop-offs on the other side. So it's a perfect place for thieves and for robbers to actually prey on innocent travelers by. And in Jesus' day, they actually had another name for the road from Jerusalem to Jericho. Do you know what they called it in Jesus' day? Like the colloquial name for it was the Way of Blood. That's how deadly this road was, the Way of Blood, which coincidentally is what I refer to 290 as here in Chicago. It's the Way of Blood. That's my last 290 joke, at least until my next message. So they know all about the Way of Blood. They know how dangerous. They get the setting. They get it. Oh, yeah, of course, that could easily happen. You know, my cousin had a friend that happened to him, right? So they got the whole thing. Jesus continues. He says, all right, so this guy's beaten up, beaten down on the side of the road. Verse 31, a priest, that's important, happened to be going down that same road, the Way of Blood. And when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. Now, this is so great, right? Jesus starts with a priest. Now, you have to remember, he's talking to a group of religious leaders. And who is the first character Jesus puts into the story next to the person who'd been beat up and left for dead? He uses a religious leader. I mean, way to read the room, Jesus. Like, he knew exactly what he was doing. And the religious leader in Jesus' story does nothing for the man in need. Now, all kinds of thoughts and yeah buts as to why he probably didn't do anything that they might begin to justify themselves in their own minds. I mean, he could become ceremonially unclean if he were to touch someone, specifically someone who might be dead. That goes against what their practices were. This could be a foreigner, or even worse, it could be a Samaritan, and so we wouldn't mess with them. We'll get to that in just a second. Or maybe this priest thought that this was just a trap. You know, it could be a trap. You know, if they go to help this person, they might get attacked. Regardless of this priest's reasons, his heart was revealed by his reaction. He crosses the street and walks around. Maybe, let's give him a little credit. I'm being a little harsh on him. Maybe he stopped for a second and prayed for him. He is a priest after all. Just, Lord, help this man, help this brother, as he's walking by. Maybe he even went as far as to post it to social. Man, you can't believe what I saw when I came into work today. Streets are hungry. You know, hashtag thoughts and prayers. I don't know, maybe, but he walked by. That's the point of this part of the story. Now remember, you're looking for you in the story. Let's keep going. Verse 32 says this. So to a Levite, tell you about that in a second, when he came to that place and saw him, passed by on the other side as well. Now, Levites were kind of like the water boys to the priests. They're on the team, but they don't quite have as important of a role. But they know the Bible inside and out. They've dedicated their life to a life of service of God, and yet we see his response is just like that first guy's, right? He crosses the street, he crosses on that Way of Blood and walks by this person in need. Maybe he was motivated by the same convictions that led the priest to not stop, or possibly because he saw the priest walk by, he figured, yeah, but I guess I don't have to stop either. If he didn't stop, I don't have to stop, and I don't even know what to do, and I'm not even prepared for a moment like this, so I guess I'll just let someone else come and take care of this person. So he walks on by too. But Jesus is not done with his story. Verse 33, look at where he gets to next. But he says, a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. Now, context is so important here. Jesus is doing a totally Jesus-y thing in this moment, because in this story, the only one who actually does something for the hurting person is a Samaritan. Now, for quick context, Jews hated Samaritans. That was going on in between the pages, in between the lines of the Bible. Jews hated Samaritans. They considered them half-breeds, not worthy of God's blessing, just despised Samaritans. And so isn't it interesting that Jesus chooses the bad guy to be the good guy of this story? That he chooses what they would call the wrong person to do the right thing. I mean, just think about even the title. Like if you have a little title in your section of the Bible, this story is often referred to as the Good Samaritan. The implication there being that the rest are bad. I mean, even the translators of the Bible, you can see some of this. They just had this assumption about Samaritans, and Jesus is doing something totally different. In fact, verse 34, he keeps going, actually. He says that the Samaritan actually went to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine, and then he put the man on his own donkey and brought him to an inn and took care of him. Now notice, can we just keep that up for a second? Notice the attention to detail here that Jesus gives in this story. He could have just said, and the Samaritan helped the hurting man. But he goes into incredible detail here. Now, why he says that he bandaged up his wounds. How do you think he bandaged up his wounds? Like, do you think he had a first aid kit in the back of his donkey? He's like, I'm prepared for just such a situation. Do you think that happened? No, the way he would bandage his wounds is by tearing of his own robe, his own cloak, tying him up. Just literally, that's the only way to do it, right? And it says that he covered him with oil, and he applied oil and wine to him. That might seem a little weird, like, culturally, like, what does that quite mean? Well, here's what's really going on. Oil and wine were an intricate part of temple worship. And every priest and every Levite would know that they use oil and wine as part of their worship of God. And so this is like Jesus saying, yeah, this is what it's really for. And then it says that he put him on his donkey. He bore the burden. He literally bore the burden. So now he's walking while this guy is on the donkey. He doesn't just throw a quarter in the cup and walk on by. But he's not done there. Verse 35 says this. It says that the next day, he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. And he said, look, take care of this guy. Look after him. And when I return, I'll reimburse you for any extra expense that you may have. Now, I love what he does here because this Samaritan, remember, supposed to be the bad guy. Jesus makes the good guy, makes the hero of the story. What he does there is he serves by meeting the guy's physical needs, and then he gives of himself. He serves, he gives of himself financially and physically. He's taking care of his needs because that phrase there, denarii, could be kind of translated, or you can kind of, in our economy today, would be around roughly anywhere between 2 weeks and 2 months' salary. So just imagine what you make. 2 weeks, 2 months, and saying to the innkeeper, whatever you need. This person I've never met till yesterday, saw him on the side of the road, take care of him. And if it costs more than what I'm giving you, I'll cover that as well. So we get to this point in the story, Jesus pauses to let his listeners know that story time is over. They can pick up their mats like story time is over, and he looks into the eyes of the religious leader who is gathered there. You know, the one who said, who is my neighbor? Remember, he's trying to justify himself. He looks at that guy in the eye, and he says this to him. He says, which of these 3 do you think was, what does it say there? Which of these 3 do you think was a what? See, he's using that same word that he used. Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? And so the religious leader answers Jesus. Jesus asks a question. He gets an answer. And he goes on and he says, well, obviously the one who took mercy on him. Good answer, right? Yeah, obviously the 3rd guy. And I love that he doesn't even say the Samaritan. He says the one. I mean, you can see it's all in there. The one who had mercy on him. And this is what Jesus does. Verse 37, second half says this. Go and do likewise. You got it. Now go do it. Miceth droppeth. Right? I mean, that's it. End of story. You know. Now do. Now do. You know, of all people, he's saying to this religious leader, you know this. Why won't you do it? You just go and do likewise. Go and do the same thing. I mean, he's saying to this religious leader, and I love this. He's saying, I want you to be more like the person you like the least. That's what I want you to do. Go and be just like them. These people that you've made bad, yeah, I made them good. And all your religion and all your rules don't mean squat if it's not actually in the service of others. It doesn't matter how much you know if you're not willing to do and to put that into work, into the lives of others. This is a powerful story from Jesus. Wouldn't you agree? Powerful story. Maybe one, again, you've heard before, but when we look at it through this lens of ourselves right now, what we begin to see is, like in this story and all Jesus' stories, there's what you can call the implicit invitation. The implicit invitation. And the implicit invitation in Jesus' stories is to find yourself in the story. Who am I in this story? Who are you most like in this now moment in this story? Because each of these main characters, if we were to be honest, could be any one of us at any given time, if we were just to be honest. Like maybe for you, if like you're to be really, really honest, you could relate to those first two religious folks. Like you know deep down that yes, I am invited to be a part of a life that is for others, but for whatever reason in this season, you kind of have all your yeah buts going, they're just kind of on loop, yeah, but man, my life is really full right now. Or yeah, but my life is really hard right now. Or yeah, but I'm just trying to take care of myself right now. I mean, I've been through a lot, and so I know I'm supposed to be about others, but but I'm just a teenager. What can I possibly do? Yeah, but I don't know, at my age, what difference could I possibly make? Yeah, but I don't even know where to start. So we can just kind of rev up that thing if we were to be honest with all our yeah buts, all our justifying about this thing that we know to be inherently true of each and every one of us. And maybe if we are more like these religious leaders more than we care to even admit. Or maybe for you, you hear this story and you go, yeah, I'm the dude on the side of the road. That's me. That's me. I'm the one who feels beat up. I feel beat down. Maybe you're really going through something right now. Maybe you're going through something financially. You're like, yeah, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. I don't know which way. Maybe you lost a job recently. Maybe there's been some change in your financial situation where you're like, I feel beat up and beat down. Maybe right now you're walking through fear and anxiety that feels crippling to you. And things that you used to do just so naturally, now you're second guessing. It's harder for you to do. Yeah, I feel beat up. I feel beat down right now. Maybe for you, you're walking through some relational tension. Maybe there's a breakup that you're walking through, or a marriage that's on the ropes, or an end of a relationship, and you're like, I'm sorry, I feel like I've just been hit upside the head with what's been going on in this relationship. Or maybe for you, what I know from myself over the last 20 months is like that feeling of all the compounded intensity of everything. It's like that compounded intensity of everything, and maybe you just feel like, I got nothing to give right now. I'm sorry, I got nothing to give. I am worn out. I'm exhausted. And maybe you showed up here, or you joined us online hoping that maybe by coming here or watching online that maybe just someone will see you and be for you and help you or bring some healing into your life. Maybe you need someone to be good for you. And that makes so much sense after all that we've been through the last 20 months or so. But again, the implicit invitation of Jesus is that we would find ourselves in that third character, the Samaritan. That we would find ourselves, that we would make our way to that way of life, to be for others, to do what we can do with what we have for those who may not have or may not be able to do for themselves in this season. To stop being so interested in myself and to start being more invested in the lives of others, the needs of others, caring for others. To do what you were actually made by God to do, to be who you're actually created by God to be. Because here's the secret. I don't know where you find yourself in the story, and if we knew each other a little bit more, I wish we had more time to get to know each other. Maybe I could kind of hear where you're at in the season, but I do know something about you that is true. I know it's true of me. I know it's true of you. Here's a truth about you, regardless of what season you may be in or what character you may find yourself as. God formed you to be for others, period. God formed you to be for others, period. No yeah buts at the end of that one. God formed you, He made you, He created you to be for others. He made you to make a difference in the lives of others. He gave you all those gifts and all those talents and all those passions and all those abilities so that you could actually give those to others. You have something to share with others. You have a way to be for others that maybe no one else around them is being for them in this season. You are created in the image of a giving God, a sacrificial God whose own son, Jesus, showed us what it means to be for others by giving his life for you and for me. You are formed to be for others. So what do you do when you get that God is for you? You choose to be for others just like God is for you. You choose to be for others. And again, I could go on and on in this, but like, don't you love it? Like, aren't you so grateful when someone does that? Like for you, I know you know how that feels to be on the receiving end of that. I know personally how thankful I am for those who have been for me in my life and specifically over the last year and a half. I think of how after my brother Scott died and my father died, I think about how our elders and our staff and so many people in this church, so many people made meals, gave space, held me in this loss, held our family in this loss, how they cared for me, how they walked with me through grief. I'm so grateful, so grateful. I'm so grateful for every volunteer who's a part of our worship team here. Like, aren't you so grateful that they come? They all do it as volunteers, and they come, and there was times in this last season where there were songs that were written by this team and that were led on a Sunday, and I thought it was all just for me. The rest of you could have gone home. I thought it was just for me. You ever felt that before? Like, this is for me. I'm so grateful that they keep showing up and they keep giving of their musical talents and abilities and songwriting skills to do that. Or for those of you who have kids, we're going to just go off for a minute. For those of you who have kids, aren't you grateful that there's folks around here who love and care for your kids like they do, who support you as parents as they do? Isn't that amazing to think about? There's folks on the other side of this building right now who are loving for and caring for your kids and praying that this message does not go long. They are good people, right? People like Hannah Morris, who's one of our volunteers in our preschool ministry. She volunteers. She's just an all-around angel. Just whatever you need, she'll do it. Or I don't even know if he's here, but Johnny Seda, who has served faithfully in Club 45. What's Club 45? It's our ministry to 4th and 5th graders. And do you want to get up on Sunday morning and hang with 4th and 5th graders? Aren't you grateful that for years now, Johnny has shown up and poured in and poured in and poured in and poured in? Like, God, I'm so grateful for folks like that. For folks like Laura Akins, who literally said she serves in our as an early childhood volunteer. She said, I think it was to Kelly, she said, look, I've cleared my schedule for Sundays around here. You just tell me where you need me, and I'm happy to do it, whatever it may be. Aren't you grateful for folks like that? Aren't you grateful for folks, for those of you who have middle schoolers or high schoolers, and maybe you are a middle schooler or a high schooler, aren't you grateful for folks like Madison Sheaf, who's here, or for Nicole Severson, for Steve and Annie Goals, who are legends in our church? They serve every week with middle school and with high school students. Get this, I mean, again, that's a very pivotal point in life. Steve Goals is a legend. He's walked with his guys since 6th grade. Same group of guys at Soul City Church since 6th grade. They're in 10th grade now. My son's one of them. Aren't you grateful? That week after week, they go, I'll do it. Yeah, I know. Middle schoolers can be weird at times. High schoolers can be intense at times. But I'm for them. I'm here for them. Our kids know that. Aren't you grateful for that? For all the folks that serve in that way? Or for those of you who are here in our West Loop location, aren't you grateful, like when you walk in the door, don't you feel like when someone sees you and says hello, and I know it's so simple, someone just greeting you, but like you feel that love, like, man, this person really cares about me. They really see me. And maybe you were just literally in a fight with your spouse or your kids 5 paces before, but they're there to greet you and to help kind of bring the RPMs down and create a space for you to encounter God. I think of folks like Shauna and Mitch Rydom who are empty nesters now. All their kids had moved out of the house, so they moved from the suburbs to the city. And because they've been so moved by how God had used this church in one of their kids' lives, they just show up here every week at the doors to greet you, to just say hey to you, to let you know that you're welcome, that you're wanted, that you're seen, that you're loved here. Every Sunday, they're doing that. Aren't you grateful from the moment you walk in, you can feel, oh, this is a place, these are people that are for me. Or think of Dalton and Tiffany Barker, who are a part of our faithful flip team, Baird and others who are part of our faithful flip team, who come in and turn this whole room around between gatherings. I don't know if you know that at the 11 o'clock, you come in here, this space has been prepped and prayed for and prepared for you, because that 9 o'clock crowd is a mess. Like, they leave stuff on. They're not here, but I'm just saying. So they come in and they clean it all up and get this whole space and all the Bibles back in place. Why? Because they're for you. They want you to experience God with no distractions, to know that there's a space for you here in this place. And for those of you who aren't in our building, maybe you're worshiping with us online, aren't you grateful for folks like Solomon Yigza and for Kat Carrion and for Cho Lee, who I think is serving on cameras here today? They all are part of a much bigger crew of camera folks. You know what our online used to be? We just flipped a camera on in the back, and then we bought that at Best Buy. That's literally what it used to be. And these folks have come around so that you can have an incredible experience. And my hunch is you're going to want to show them some love, because if they can make this mug look somewhat presentable, they are miracle workers touched by the hand of God. And so we love and thank them. Or folks like Shelly Keelis, or I think of Cheryl and Stefan, who are in the back all the time doing all the slides and all the videos. They do all of that so that you can engage and experience this. Aren't you so glad? Those of you who are online right now, show them some love in the comments section right now, because they're doing all of this and you may never meet them, but they're for you. Or think of folks like Andrew Sharp, legend around here, Rachel Shapiro, legends. Do you know what they've done? Volunteers, them and a whole crew of others have started, and they've built from the ground up our Justice Center, so that people who come in through the House of Hope, who may feel like the system is working against them, the system has forgotten them, they are there to say, no, we see you and we will fight for you. We will get behind you and support you. Aren't you grateful for folks who are doing that, using their gifts and abilities that they have in that kind of way? Or if you've received any form of care over this last season, maybe someone's prayed for you in our prayer hall, highly recommend. Or our care team, or one of our grief groups, or one of our recovery groups. There's folks like Scott and Chantal Rogers who are just faithfully serving and loving and pouring out of themselves to care for you and for others. And if you've ever been in the hospital and you let us know that was going on, and you received a meal from our church, or your family received a meal from our church, Chantal has literally been through every step of the process, prayed for it every step of the way. She's for you. They're for you. For those of you who've gone to Alpha, never been a part of Alpha, or maybe you're in Alpha right now, or you've invited a friend to Alpha, I'm so grateful. I could go on and on and on, talk about folks like Max and Alex and Betsy and Jordan and the legends themselves, Jenny and Mark Emery, who are true goats around here, who just lovingly create space for people to bring their biggest spiritual questions. They say, no, there is a place for you. There are people for you to ask life's biggest questions, and they do it like faithfully every week. Or I could go on, and I'm going to go on because I have a microphone, about our small group leaders and our coaches. Just raise your hand if you're in a small group this round. If you've ever been in a small group at Soul City, raise it high. So you have someone to thank who said, I'm going to create a space for you. And as our small groups have gotten kicked off right now, all of them volunteers saying, I'm going to create a space for connection, for community for you. I want you to experience God in the context of a community, and they're doing that so that you can experience that. They are for you. And I could go on and on. There's far too many names. There's so many names, so many people that I'm so grateful for. All of them are unique. All of them are using their own sort of unique talents and abilities. And here, don't miss this, all of them have full lives just like you. They're all holding different things just like you are, but they have this in common. They are for others. They're for you. And rather than having you thank them, I could do a whole thing where like, can we thank them right now? Which is not a bad idea, but rather than having you thank them, do you know what they would rather you do? Join them. That's what they would rather you do. Join them. Be a part of what God is doing through this church as we say we are for this city. We're for others. Serve alongside them. That's what they would rather have you do. What God actually formed you to do, to be for others. And listen, we all have our yeah buts and all our reasons why it's hard maybe in this season. And I know where, our church and our city so desperately need to hear that there are people that are for them. And all I'd ask you to consider is, would you just simply say, hey, you know what? I want to be for others. Yes, I want to be for others. I want to be a part of that. And look, I get it. I know that the last 20 months, we've all sort of, let's be honest, we've all sort of pulled in a little bit, haven't we? I mean, we were actually told to go inside, to isolate. but it's had a lasting effect that I do not think is good for your soul. And I know that being out, being for others might feel a little scary for you or unfamiliar to you. I get it at first. I'm telling you, you were formed for this. You were made for this. Just this last week, I got to have lunch with one of my co-leaders for our men's group and leading a men's group here for over 10 years now. Got to meet with him, got to have lunch, got to pray, got to plan, got to lay out what we're going to lead our guys through. And I'm so grateful that I get to do this together. Together, we get to make room for others. I'm telling you, that's what God formed you to do. What if you were to make room for others, just like all these folks that I just walked through and so many more have made room for you? There's lots of ways to do it, and there's lots of different ways here in this church and around the city for you to do that, but one of the best places I can think of is to start right here, right where you're at, to be part of a church that says, yeah, we're going to be for others. We're going to do that kind of work. So if you are interested in that, taking that next step, here's your homework assignment for anyone and everyone. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to pull your phone out right now, and if you want to be a part of, go ahead, pull your phone out. It's okay. It's all right. It's all right. You can do it. I'm giving you permission. Go ahead and pull your phone out right now because we're going to put something up on the screen for you to scan here in a second. If you want to be a part of having your life changed by seeing others' lives changed through you, then just scan this this gigantic QR code behind me, or if you're with us online, you should see the address right on the bottom that you can go to, and you can go straight to there. And we're just going to give you information. We're not going to sign you up for anything. We're not going to tell you have to meet us afterwards to do this, that, or the other. We just want you to get the information so that you can serve others and be for others in a unique way that's totally suited to who you are, given your life, your schedule. No more yeah buts on this one. And I know it can seem so overwhelming and the needs can feel so great at times and you don't know where to start. So we've tried to make it as easy and as simple as possible for you. If you scan the little QR code, or if you're here in the building, it's so good to see all of you, you can head straight down to our first floor lobby afterwards, and we've created a serving bar down there. There's a serving bar where people, I had to clear this and make sure they're not serving drinks, but they're serving opportunities for you to actually get involved and get plugged in. There's people you can talk to that can tell you more about it, people who've been a part of being for others in this church for a while now. And so you can go right down afterwards. If you want to actually hear a little bit more right now today, you can go down to our first floor lobby and talk with someone about how you can serve both here within these walls and well beyond these walls. It's a great place to start. Remember, the religious leaders in that story stayed at a safe distance, right? In fact, they went out of their way to walk by someone who was in need, but it was that Samaritan. It was that one who crossed the street, who went out of his way to make room, to walk to be for others. And I believe that is the implicit invitation of Jesus for any follower of his, for all of us to be for others. And so here's what I'm going to ask you to do. If you're in this physical space, would you stand up right now and maybe put your phone down or your drink down for a second, because I'm going to have you do something with your hands that we haven't done for a long time as a church. I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to pray for us that we would truly get what it means to be for others, like Jesus not only modeled for us, taught us, but then did for us. Here's what I want you to do. We did this in our elder meeting this last week. We realized we haven't done it for a long time. I want to ask you, if you feel comfortable doing so, I'm going to ask you to grab the hand of the person next to you. Okay, I'm going to tell you, and if you don't feel comfortable, don't force someone to grab your hand. That's weird. Don't be weird in church. Okay, no, he said to do it. Give me your hand. Just, if they're giving you vibes, trust the vibes, okay? Jeez, okay? But if you would, I don't know, it's been a minute since we've been able to do this, but God, doesn't it just to have to know that you're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. And wherever you find yourself in the story, there's a God who's for you. And there's others who are for you, so that you can do that for others. And so here's what I want you to do. Would you close your eyes as we're holding hands? I love that we get to do this. It's been so long since we've been able to do this. As you're holding hands, would you just pray with me? God, thank you that this is your way, that we would be for others. And this isn't just an idea that Jesus talked about, it's what he did. I mean, he literally did it. He invited Samaritans, he invited tax collectors, and he invited all the folks that religion had walked by. He invited to be his friends and followers. He showed us what it means to be for others, and then he ultimately did it by giving his life for us. And that's the invitation, the implicit invitation for all of us, is that we would be for others. Would you help us do that? Would you help us get past our yeah buts and all the ways we try and justify why this isn't the right season and this really isn't for me and I'm kind of new around here and I don't know? Would you just help us push past that and see, no, this is actually what I'm formed by you to do. And then would you help us do it today, following up on that link or going down to the first floor, whatever it may take. Would you just help us make room in our hearts and our lives and our schedules for others, to make room for you to move in and through us. It's in your name that we pray, and we say, amen.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. My name is Brandon, and I'm the Transformation Pastor here. Our hope is that this message encouraged you. And if it did, don't forget to share this link with a friend. Also, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video, and so that you can become a part of our global church online. And for more information about who we are or for giving information, feel free to visit our website. You'll see a link down below. And our hope is that we'll see you back soon.